some key games taking place at the top and the bottom end of the table. Crystal Palace will host Burnley and will hope to get back on track under their new boss, Oliver Glasner. Burnley were looking for their first win in 7. Everton are looking for a big 3 points as well as they head to the Amex to take on Brighton this afternoon. Nottingham Forest will be doing the same as they travel to Aston Villa. We talk about the title race a lot, Cass, and when we have obviously spoken about the relegation picture, and for many it does seem as though the bottom 2 are perhaps already down. So who makes up that bottom 3 for you at this present moment? Not as in like by the end of the season.
I personally think that even though they've done amazingly well, I think the biggest challenge is going to be for Luton. But I love their desire and hunger, and I don't want them to go down because I just think their attitude of their players and everybody involved with the football club has been to, battle as hard as they can until the very end. And I think they will. But I just don't know if they've got enough quality. Just don't know. And if they get a little batch of injuries, who comes in, I'm just not convinced. But look, it takes nothing away. Luton have been a really big surprise to me. They've come up and showed an amazing attitude to playing the game. And Rob Edwards has done brilliant as a manager coming in, and showing that they can rub shoulders with the very best.
There has felt as though there's been a fearless nature to them. It took a little bit, maybe it's a bit of time to get adjusted. But, the recent few months of Luton, they've gone at, I don't want to say gone at teams, but they've sort of been in games and they have challenged teams as well. You have to look at some of the results that they've had at Kenilworth Road, which I'm talking about defeats perhaps, but they've been narrow defeats to some of the top-end teams, and even drew with Liverpool, obviously. I know they lost recently, but at home, 1-1.
Well, they've got a bit of a handicap because they're a few points adrift. Now, if you're saying to me, who's it between Everton and Luton because they're on the same points, Everton have a bigger squad and a more experienced squad and have a lot of quality within that group. And I just think they would finish higher than Luton by the end of the season. I don't see Everton going.
And it will all obviously rest as well on this appeal, whether they get some points back, which Rob Edwards, in fairness, has talked about that and has said, look, we're not even looking at the table as it is now because we don't know where we'll be with those points. But that in itself is really making life difficult for Luton, as it is for Everton, as it is for Nottingham Forest, who themselves have another charge to deal with, their own FFP.
There's a lot of unknowns in there.
That's the problem. We can't have our unknowns. It certainly needs to be more... Well, it needs to be cleared up sooner rather than later. We can't be getting to the last few weeks of the season still not knowing what's going to happen.
No, there has to be a resolution to it all, and it's got to be done sooner rather than later. You can't get to, like you say, final games of the season and still teams not knowing what's going to happen.
No. Game Day Live will keep you updated with all the 3 o'clock kickoffs. That's Adrian Durham and our reporters up and down the land. So you'll be able to find out what happens in those games, as I say.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.